Nate Johnson is making this quarterback battle very interesting early on in camp.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sport stops sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a booster or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, it's day 2 of fall camp. The defense is finding its groove. It's playing with a lot more edge. And Tim Beck and Jerry Kill seem to be in their bag early on. But most importantly, Diego Pavia seems to be the QB1, but not so fast. Nate Johnson is really making things interesting in this quarterback race. And it's one of those things where, you know, I'm surprised, but I'm at the same time, I'm not surprised by reading these reports. And I go, you know, and I look on vandysports.com, Vandy247, you know, all the good places with all the good information that I react to. But, you know, it just seems like in this quarterback race that, you know, Diego Pavia is surprisingly not as fast on his reads as Nate Johnson. And that might be, and I think that's more due to the speed of the SEC versus him not knowing what's going on and him not being sure of the reads and of the system, because we all know he's a master of the system, but it just might be getting acclimated to the speed upgrade that he faced at New Mexico State. He only saw that for 1 week, and he's still probably not used to it, and he's still getting into a groove, and there's still a lot of other factors going on. But, you know, it seems that, you know, he's solid, and the things that Diego Pavia is good at just don't necessarily stand out on the stat page. But what Nate Johnson is doing, he's really making a name for himself in this quarterback race. And he's shown that, you know, physically he is the most daunting. He's the most intimidating looking one out there. He's the most athletic. He's the most explosive. He's got a live arm. And the thing that I always thought that would hold Nate Johnson back in this race was, I think he was going to overwhelm with his talent. I always thought he was going to make this thing interesting with his talent. I just thought, you know, with coming in with a new system and the guy that's supposedly in front of you knows the system a lot better than you, I felt like that was a major disadvantage for Nate Johnson coming in. But he's playing right on through that. And talent sometimes just absolutely trumps knowledge in some cases. And I think it is something that is worth noting, because when you're evaluating these guys and when you're evaluating, part of what you're going to evaluate is how are they going to make an impact on the field? How are they going to make an impact on Saturdays? What it's going to come down to is Diego Pavia's knowledge, is his moxie, is his leadership ability going to overcome the explosiveness, the big arm of Nate Johnson? Like, what you've got to understand, like what are you actually looking for? And when they get in these scrimmages, I don't know if the quarterbacks are going to be live because of the run game and because of how they're going to factor there. If they are live, I mean, injuries might come into play before you get out of fall camp. So it's just going to come down to command, consistency. You know, I think quarterbacks being more consistent, more even keel, that will also factor well into this race. Being able to command day in and day out, do it over and over and over and over again to be able to win this job. So what what I like about Nate Johnson, what I think is going to happen, and this was a comment on my show yesterday's episode, a 2-quarterback system can work, and Nate Johnson's proving just what he can do. And he's proving that it's not just a limited package. He's not going to be the Tim Tebow in that Tim Tebow Chris Leak example that one of the viewers gave, because I think Nate Johnson has a lot more in his bag and in his repertoire than Tim Tebow did Tim Tebow's freshman year. Tim Tebow was not a polished passer. He was never a polished passer. He was never somebody that was going to dice you up. He was always a major run threat that was a good enough thrower to get you by. But Tim Tebow, that's not how he won. Tim Tebow won on guts and power and running. And then when the defense loaded the box, you had Percy Harvin to throw it up to, and that was it. Nate Johnson's a lot more explosive. I think Nate Johnson's a better quarterback. And I think that he will be able to deliver throws that Tim Tebow could never throw physically. Now the mental aspects of it, he's still got to develop, and we'll still see how that shakes out because there's a lot of time. There's a lot of practices between now and the 31st. But at the same time, the 31st is going to be here before you know it. So, Nate Johnson's got to continue doing what he's doing and do it consistently. So this is where it gets interesting. And if you're Virginia Tech's coaching staff, you're reading this going, that's not a slam dunk. Diego Pavia is not a slam dunk to be the starter, right? You're reading that. And based on what I said yesterday, it's, how are they going to prepare for both? Are they going to have to prepare for a 2-quarterback system? Are they going to have to prepare for a more explosive running quarterback like Nate Johnson? Will he win the job? That's something that that's a legitimate question. That's not a camp coaches speak talk. People who have observed, and the reason why I think Clark Lee is being coy, we are seeing now with the practice reports that it may not be this coy game with him. It may not be this deception game with him now. This might be an actual legitimate battle. And I'm here for it. I love quarterback battles. I think it's great that you have two guys that are battling like this, that are pushing each other. I think it's great that even the third string guys, there's a battle for the quarterback 3 job with Blaze Berlowitz and Drew Dickey. And that's these quarterbacks are really showing up right now. And so that's an extremely positive thing when you think about it. And so I'm very excited about the direction of this program. And I think you're starting to see now with the way this quarterback race is going, and still they've got a ways to go because of chemistry and because of a lot of things. But I think where they are, you can see the pieces coming together. You can see things happening. You can see how, and I'll talk about it here in a little bit, but you can see how things are going to go. And it's very, very promising if you look at it the right way. If you try to evaluate and extrapolate the season based off of 2 practices, it's not going to make any sense because the defense is not quite there yet, but they're playing with edge. They're showing qualities that are going to lead you to believe that they're going to be way more successful than last year. The offense is not quite there yet, but they're doing things that will show you that, hey, these guys are on a different level than they ever were last year. And that's promising. That leads me to believe that I can still feel good about the 5-6 win prediction. I predicted bowl game. I went very bullish, and I'm going to stick to that. But I just think that there's, the impacts are starting to show. And it's showing through this quarterback race, right? Because Nate Johnson could have said, you know what? It's Diego's job. He's a master of this offense. He's got a lot of swag. He's got a lot of leadership qualities. The guys follow him. He's talented. He can run. He can throw. I'm just gonna sit back and I'm just gonna take it as it goes. He could have said all of that. He could have just been a more, hey, I'm just gonna focus on being the best backup I can and be ready when they call me. And he could have said all of that, but he didn't. And that's where the competitive spirit I talked about yesterday is really coming into play because, hey, guys are chirping. The quarterback, Nate Johnson's like, hey, whoa, hold on. Diego Pavia is not quarterback one. I've got something to say about that. I'm going to make this decision as tough as I can on Coach Kill, Coach Beck, and Coach Lee. I'm going to state my case with 5 exclamation points, 6 exclamation points, one for each win, right? And I'm going to make them tell me no, and I'm going to force them, by the way I play, to build a package out for me. So, and I think that at the very least, you'll see something where they feature Nate Johnson, and I'm all the way here for it. And I think it's going to be an interesting thing. So this is far from over, right? This is not a slam dunk. This is far from over. And yes, this is serious. But the offense, Jerry Kill and Tim Beck are in their bag early. What does that mean exactly? We'll tell you next. All right, passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, are you watching ESPN or Fox Sports? I'm tired of all that shouting. Well, you need to make the sports to Locked On. You need to make the switch to Locked On Sports today. A free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Speaking of you everydayers, thank you for making all of this possible. I couldn't thank you enough. This is amazing. You guys make it happen. So thank you. And more thank yous and more thank yous and more thank yous. All right. So this quarterback race is getting really, really interesting. And I think that's a good thing. I think it reflects also the fact that Jerry Kill and Tim Beck are in their bag. The quarterback development has been outstanding. The fact that these guys are advanced in their knowledge and their reads and things like that. I mean, yeah, some of the execution could be better, but I mean, come on, it's day 2 of camp. So, what are we expecting exactly? But in reading the reports, I was very pleased to see that this offense was moving the ball. They were moving the ball very, very well, and I was excited to see that. Obviously the quarterbacks were a lot better. Things were a lot cleaner. Still probably a little sloppier than Coach Lee wants, but he's a coach. Every day is going to be sloppy to him. So, but I just think it's it's a good thing when the offense kind of took a beating in the spring a little bit, where it just didn't seem like they had their way very much, and a lot of that was just new scheme, new things. A lot of new things, and a lot of guys not there yet that they're relying on. But now you're starting to see this thing come together a little bit, right? And at times, and this is when you read practice reports, this is exactly the phrasing that you want to hear because it's good for both sides. Okay. And the phrasing is this. It looked like Tim Beck and Jerry Kill had their way with the defense at times. Some of the stuff they ran had the defense lost on certain plays. Okay. Now, when you're talking about good on good, inter squad stuff, that's the kind of stuff you want to read. Why? Because it's not, hey, they completely smoked the defense all day long, or the offense couldn't move the ball an inch all day long. Like, you don't want either extreme, because it means either the offense sucks or is way behind, or the defense sucks. way behind. So you want it to be like, hey, they got us a few times, we got them a few times. That's kind of how you want to read these reports. And the reason why I say they're in their bag, because the second sentence of this, and this was written by Joey Dwyer and Billy Derrick. And what I really like about this is that they had the defense lost on certain plays. And that's kind of where exactly they wanted to go with this offense. They want to dictate the tempo. They want to keep defenses off balance and on their heels and reeling a little bit. And so by doing that, I think they put their offensive line in advantage. I think they help their run game out, and I think they open up a whole lot of passing windows that they never would have opened up last year, because let's face it, I think they were just trying to figure out how to play football last year, it seemed like at times. But this is what you want to read, because the offense is sharp enough that they're getting there, they're progressing. But they also understands, I think the statement also takes into account that they're going against an SEC defense that also is allowed to give out scholarships. And I think it's a good, healthy balance. And people shouldn't panic either way, because again, the qualities that you're seeing are evident in the fact that they're going to be good when a defense doesn't know every single move, every single call, every single personnel grouping, and vice versa with the offense that knows every aspect of the defense, because they scout each other and they set up for success. There's situations that benefit the offense or benefit the defense that put an offense at a disadvantage to see how they deal with it. There's a lot of things in practice that don't always tell the full story, but there are periods occasionally when it's just, okay, we're not going to say anything. We're not going to set up. It's not going to be scripted. We're going to call it and go, and we're going to compete. And these are the most important things. Who wins the day? Well, overall, offense won the day, but I think both sides of the ball are getting a lot of great development there. So what I'm excited about is this. Okay, they're in their back. They got guys spinning. They got guys lost. They got a lot of things going on. Offensively, Cole Spence was a guy that stood out at tight end, him and Eli Stowers. So if Vandy wants to go a lot of 12 personnel, that's going to help out their run game. And they have Eli Stowers, who's a wide receiver type, and they have a massive target with Cole Spence. So they can go some 12 personnel stuff, get in some spread sets, and let's roll. Or they can get into some like run-centric 12 personnel type sets and use Eli and Cole Spence as pass catchers too, because they're very capable pass catchers. And so I think that's one of those things where, again, you're going to see a lot of creativity with these guys, and they're going to do things like that. They're going to go off schedule down in distance. They're going to go off schedule with formation and personnel groups. They're going to go off schedule in whichever ways you can go off schedule, because they're creative. They understand that they have different pieces that do different things, and they can use that to their advantage. They have a massive target in Cole Spence, who, since Eli Stowers has come aboard, he's seemed like he's been kind of the forgotten guy a little bit. But you won't forget him. He's a big 6'7" target. And Loic Foungy is somebody that, he's starting to develop, and this is a receiver group that's trying to find their way a little bit. But he's certainly, and we knew this coming in, he's a massive target. He's somebody that high points the ball really well. As he kind of gets more time in the system and more time just running routes and getting back used to playing, because he's been beat up, but he's improved a little bit. Skinner, if he can stay healthy and be more consistent, there was coming into a senior year, he's somebody that could be kind of like a vocal, tough, lead by example type guy. You always need that. Just like, here's an example of a tough leadership guy, veteran guy, Steve Smith, which I don't know that Quincy Skinner is quite the talker that Steve Smith is. I don't know that anybody is, but Quincy Skinner can kind of play that role on this offense. Really productive, if he can stay healthy and be on the field. Really productive, really energetic, and brings juice and makes plays, obviously. He can be that guy. So over the course of time, as the quarterbacks are battling, you're going to see some guys. You're going to see some guys kind of shake out. And with running backs, we're not going to know until they get pads on. We're not going to really know anything about the running backs in the running game until they get pads on. I think this is where Pavia and Nate Johnson are going to really kind of get into the weeds of this tournament or this battle. I think right now, being in helmets and those little like vest pads, I think that really kind of favors the more talented quarterback, the more physically talented quarterback right now. But Tristan Brown, the freshman, he has a lot of explosiveness. He's somebody that is going to be, he's going to look to get on the field. It's a very crowded room, but he's making this case right now. And Junior Sherrill is really kind of more making his name in the special teams world. I don't know that he's going to be able to shine above a lot of these other guys, a lot of these portal guys, and that's unfortunate because he's good. But I don't. He's one of those guys that are right now that just hasn't popped yet and just hasn't burst on the scene yet. There's still time. There's going to be plenty of opportunities because when you're battling with quarterbacks, you're going to give those guys a lot of opportunities. And there's battles for receiver spots too. I mean, I think every single spot is up for grabs right now. So that's something to make note of. And then the offensive line, they're, again, I told you guys they were going to struggle because they're experimenting with some combinations. So it's only natural. But anyway, when I said that the offense had their way with the defense at times and had them lost, there was other times where the defense got the offense. And one of the things I really like about this defense is they're playing with more edge. I'll tell you about that edge next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up any bets anytime that I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, welcome back. As we look to wrap up the show, thank you, everydayers, for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. Make sure you check out Locked On SEC next. Make sure you make that your next listen as camp season rolls around. You want to know what's going on around the conference, right? Well, Chris Gordy's got you covered. If you want to listen to some of the team sites, I recommend Locked On Ole Miss. I recommend Locked On Auburn. Did a crossover with Zach. Super, super great show. Love it, man. But fall camp, man, is raging on. Practice number 2. We are underway, guys. This is exciting. We are underway. It is August 2nd. We play in less than a month. That ball kicks off in less than a month. 11 a.m. local time. Right over there at First Bank Stadium, the Hokies come to play. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun to watch. This is a new-look team. The offense, they're in their bag. They've got a really nice quarterback battle going on, a legitimate quarterback battle going on. It's not like who's the best or the worst, like some situations can be, but it's more like how are these guys gonna, who's gonna be the guy? And these guys are just battling tooth and nail. So it's great. But the defense is probably going to be the star of the show. Okay. And the defense they're finding their way. They're finding their groove. Okay. This is the way to say it. This is the perfect way to say it. They're finding their groove. And I think when, if you listen to segment 2, I think you'll come away going, I'm concerned with the defense, but don't be. Not yet. Don't be concerned with defense because it didn't say they dominated them. It said they had their way with them at times. They said sometimes they looked lost, which is really good for the offense. But the thing that I like about this defense, you have more guys playing with edge. You have more guys barking. You have more guys getting after it. And when the pads come on, that's going to ratchet up even more. And that's what you want. You want these guys competing with each other. You want the defense making it hell on the offense. You want the offense making it hell on the defense. You want that to happen. You want them to break the defense because it shows you what's broken and how to fix it. And also, right now, with not in full pads, they're trying out different combinations at corner. They're experimenting a little bit. And so, yeah, of course, sometimes they're gonna be. But playing with edge is probably the number one thing I wanted to see out of this defense. What was that going to look like? Are they going to fly around? Are they going to talk trash? Are they going to play with edge and not roll over like they did a year ago? Right? And we'll see it, as they continue to fight, not literally fight, but as they continue to battle it out in practice and they continue to go toe-to-toe with the offense. I think you're going to see that over time that this defense develops a little bit of a thick skin, a little bit of a hard shell, so to speak, and a little bit of a hard edge. And when you get a defense with a hard edge, you get a little swagger, they start to play well, and that's going to be trouble for you. Like, let's say, hypothetically, now Missouri's extremely talented. Well, I'm not even going to say Missouri. I'm going to say Virginia Tech because that's the opener. That's the most important game. But let's say, hypothetically, Virginia Tech, you're in this game. All right, Virginia Tech's coming in. They're favored by 13.5 points. They're supposed to beat Vandy by 2 touchdowns. They're talented. They're ranked, right? But here's the scenario. They come in. They have a couple early turnovers. And they have some early turnovers, a 3-and-out, where they take a sack and it just seems like they're in disarray a little bit, and the defense is hooping and hollering, and they're talking trash, and they're celebrating a little bit. You have to think, because it goes back to psychology. Any team can beat any team. It's all about psychology. Vandy was 2-10, not because they lacked talent, right? They lacked drive. They lacked an identity. They lacked edge. A team would start to move the ball on them, and next thing you know, they start falling apart. They had no competitive edge. They had no competitive edge in the winter in training programs. Or they have very little because they'd falter. And when you falter physically, then you start getting a little bit weak-minded. There's no edge. This year there's been edge. There's been edge in the weight program, in the conditioning program, in the overall training program. There's been edge. There was edge in spring practice, right? Edge can get you somewhere. Now, they still have to have quality depth, which they're building, and I think they have a lot. I think they have better quality depth than they did a year ago too. And some of that is training, some of that is getting talented guys from the transfer portal. But and another part of that is getting these guys to execute above their level. And this defense, by flying around, having edge, they will win these battles. They will get the ball back for the offense. They will have opportunities. Now, teams are going to get them because other teams are talented. Virginia Tech's going to get them. I promise you. Virginia Tech's not going to get shut out by Vandy. That won't happen. If you think that's going to happen, well, I got some beachfront property I want to sell you in Nebraska. But I like a defense with edge. And if they struggle in training camp, that's okay. If it's early and it's not often, that's okay because they're learning through it. And so this is fun, man. This is a lot of fun. And so you're looking at a defense that is going to fly around. They're going to play with identity. They're going to play with a purpose. And that purpose is to destroy you, to disrupt you, and to make you demoralized. And they're going to impose their will. That's the identity that's being hammered into them right now. And you may not think it with Clark Lee and his calm demeanor and his seem. I've heard the term milk toast with him. It's very calculated. Mark Richt was like that. But I guarantee you he's more engaged now. Clark Lee is. And you're going to see some results, I think. And that's my bold prediction right now. But this defense, I love a defense with edge. Show me edge early. You can fix the scheme things later. But show me edge, because edge on defense, attitude on defense is like half the battle. So I like it. I think Vandy's in a really good spot early on. Now, the key is going to be to continue to build on that. And if they can, then Vandy just might be a dangerous team. Not going to go 12-0, obviously, but they could be very, very dangerous, and this thing could get very interesting. So that's all I got. I'm taking you into the weekend with that. So stay tuned. This is the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making everything possible, and thank you for making this a wonderful experience for me. And I appreciate everything you guys do. Have a great weekend. We'll continue on with training camp and fall camp news as we press on towards the season. Have a good weekend. Anchor down. And behave yourself.